Justice Payne, it's such an honor for me to be here with you today. The Justice of the New Mexico Supreme Court has many, many hats that they wear. Administrative responsibilities, but one of their core jobs of a justice on the court is to decide the cases that come before the court. Justices have to give written reasons for their decisions so that the whole world can look at it, scrutinize it, and say that's a just decision, or they agree with it or don't disagree with it. And even if they disagree, they know exactly why the court did what it did. There's one of the justices is assigned to author the case. So those cases are put in books, or have been put in books, for the history of the state, and it's true in all the states, but they're all just in there as the opinions come out. But it's been an idea among several of the justices that I heard about, that maybe what we ought to do is start putting together commemorative editions so that in a single book you can find all the opinions written by a justice of the New Mexico Supreme Court. So Lizette Romero and myself, she's my boss. She's the one that guides me through all of this. And she's from our clerk's office. She's the deputy clerk. We got together and we started putting together these books for justices where we would do a commemorative edition. And so all of Justice Payne's opinions are now in one single book, and there's a copy kept in the clerk's office, there's a copy kept in the Supreme Court Law Library, there's a copy kept in the law library at the law school, and there's a fourth place where it goes.
There's two of them actually go in our law library. Yeah.
So anybody that wants, they can go in there and look. And each book is a piece of history. So and I was going through this on the drive up, and you see lawyers that appeared in those days. You see judges that were the trial judges, because it shows who the trial judges were. You see the parties that were there, and each case is a little bit of history, of that case, but it's also a little history of New Mexico. And Justice Payne, let me just give you a little bit of his background. Some of you may know it a little bit, some of you maybe don't. Justice Vern Payne was Chief Justice, was born on August 13, 1936 in Lordsburg.
That's before your grandma was born.
That's, well, I don't know. It's volume 4, because he's the fourth person to receive one of these books. It's the New Mexico Commemorative Appellate Reports, Justice H. Vern Payne, 1977 to 1983, when he served on the New Mexico Supreme Court. And I was paging through here. I've got a couple of my cases that I appeared before the Supreme Court as a lawyer that are in here. One of the cases, the United Nuclear case, is a case, I don't know how many pages it is, it's on discovery that happens in all trials where each side has to disclose their information.
I can remind you, there were 5,000 pages of briefs. And with the briefs and the exhibits, they filled a complete room from floor to
I
almost
believe
the ceiling.
his opinion that he wrote is still cited today by the lawyers. It's a very lengthy opinion. It covers many, many areas of the law. And to this day, my law clerks are looking at that opinion and citing to it. There's another opinion in here. It deals with a woman that a volleyball piece of apparatus fell on her foot. Very simple facts, but there was all of these companies involved that manufactured it. And in this book, that opinion occupies almost 100 pages. It's like 98 pages. And bear in mind, this Justice Payne will tell you, there was no computers in those days to help you. You had to write all these things out, and they were typed out by hand on typewriters. And they
4 carbon copies.
And 4 carbon copies. They had to erase, if they made a mistake, they had to erase each single thing. It was onion skin, onion paper that they used in those days. So you can imagine having an opinion 100 pages long, done that way. Thank you for all the work you've done, and it's my pleasure and my honor, Justice Payne, to present you with this commemorative edition.
The honor's mine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Little battle in reserve, and El Fago went over there to solve that little battle. And when he got there, they had a group of cowboys with guns, obviously, and they pinned him down in a little corral that was built to hold animals. It was built with these stakes that are made out of branches, and you may have seen a fence or two like that still, but it was round and a solid building with a roof over it, and they used it for chicken coops or to hold cattle or whatever. And they had him pinned down there for a day or two, and they estimated that there were several thousand rounds shot into that jacal, but he was able to dig out the floor, and they couldn't hit him. Finally, the sheriff from Socorro came over, and they mediated that, and the guys that he had gone over there to arrest were arrested and hauled to Socorro to be jailed there and be in a courthouse for a trial. They were tried and convicted, but El Fago became a folk hero for the Hispanic population of New Mexico. Walt Disney made a little video, or a movie actually, about his experience. And so when I got a chance to pick up his books, actually my father had bought them first, and then I got them from my father. And so I had from volume 1 of the New Mexico Report all the way to the current volumes. I'd like to recognize a few folks here. When I was in law school, I worked for a firm called Hannett & Cornish. A.T. Hannett, the main lawyer in the firm, had come to New Mexico before statehood. And he settled in Gallup, and while he was in Gallup, he was there 25 years, and he had defended over 50 of major crimes, most of them murder cases. What happened in Gallup in those days, they had the coal miners, most of which came from Czechoslovakia and that area. They had Italians that were stonemasons, were brought in to build the stone bridges for the railroad going through. And they had the Navajo natives, and they had the Hispanic natives, and they had a coal mine there, and they had the miners, and they had all different brands of ethnicity. and such, he handled a lot of those cases. And in 1925 in New Mexico, you're gonna be sorry you even gave me a chance to talk.
I love the stories.
In New Mexico, in those days, they didn't have a private ballot. Every voter would go into a voting booth with a party worker, and they would keep track of how they voted, and then the party bosses they'd pay them $3 a vote if they voted right. If they didn't vote right, they didn't get $3. And so A.T. Hannett pushed through the 1924 and 25 legislature an election reform. And that infuriated the party bosses of both the Republicans and the Democrats. And so when he ran, they all got together and they chose a Republican to run against him, a fellow named Dillon, Dillon.
Nobody else is going to remember that.
And he lived down in Encino, which is down towards Roswell. And he ran on Highway 66, came through Los Lunas from back here in the Laguna area, and then it went down through Mountain Air, through Encino, and then it would go north to Las Vegas. And then at Las Vegas, it would turn south again and go to Tucumcari. So in order to get even with Dillon, A.T. Hannett, the governor at that time, the governors only served 2-year terms in that day and age. He called in every piece of road building equipment in the state, and most of course, was horse-drawn equipment, a few pieces of big paving equipment. He started half in Tucumcari, headed west, and the other half in Albuquerque, headed east. And they worked 3 shifts and connected up. Dillon, of course, was infuriated because it was gonna get rid of his way of making a living. So Dillon was elected governor. He beat Hannett, and the inauguration was set for the 4th of January in Santa Fe. Now, in that time, they didn't have the highway that we have now, La Bajada, that goes up the road, fancy freeway. The only road going from here to Santa Fe was through what was called La Mahala instead of Bajada. La Mahala was the mother road, they called it. And it was a switchback road. And of course, in 1925, what cars did they have?
Model A's.
Mainly the Model T Fords. And the Model T Fords had the gas tank built up over the instrument panel, and it worked on gravity. And so to get up that road, they would have to come to a switchback, and if they were trying to go up forward, they couldn't get the gas, and they'd back up that road, or depending on the direction they were coming. So Governor Dillon had an order to stop the road the minute that he got sworn in. He handed the order to the state police and said, "Go stop the road." Well, as fortune would have it, they had had a blizzard that night, the night before, and the police, nobody could get up and down the road. And that was the only road. They didn't have a road behind the mountain in that day and age going through that area back there. And so they couldn't serve the thing. And by the time they served the papers, the road had been connected. And all the east-west traffic, there were salesmen mainly, and a few other people would go back and forth between Albuquerque and of course over to Texas, Clovis, and that area. And so the road was connected up. The state did not spend 1 penny to buy right-of-way. The ranchers were delighted to have a road, and they didn't demand money for the right-of-way. When I first was practicing law with A.T. Hannett, we had some cases involving road access and easements, including those in the Gallup area for Highway 66 when they were getting ready to build freeways. But once they had that road, it was all set, and poor Mr. Dillon didn't have a chance. One thing my children don't know, have never heard before, is I happened to date his daughter. Just a couple of times.
Dated everybody.
No, not quite everybody. Some of these pretty gals weren't born then. At any rate, I tell that story to let you know that when I first got on the bench, I knew a lot of old timers, a lot of the older judges, and I practiced law with a lot of the old timers. Where I was elected in 4 counties. And so I was originally elected when I lived here, and so I was elected to be on the district court. But when the legislature added some judges and created a new district for political reasons, and the main politicians at the time were two, Brian Colon here knows that he was raised in Los Lunas. It was Philo Cedillo and Tebow Chavez. Tebow Chavez's son has the advertisement about getting tort cases and so on. And those were the two party bosses in Valencia County. And so they got the new district created. I was elected in the 2nd Judicial District, and by constitution, I had to live in Bernalillo County. And so that's why I moved my family from here back up to Bernalillo County and practiced law up there until I went on the Supreme Court.
Wasn't Tebow Chavez also a judge here?
He became a judge, and Philo Cedillo became a judge. And Terry Boucher, that I practiced with in a big case I handled, became a judge. I've got here, I think Niels Thomson, of the people that I had working with me in the law firm, there are 4 that are now on the district court. Alan Smith here, Doug Decker in Gallup, Marie Ward in Albuquerque. Do any of you know Marie Ward?
Sure.
Oh, she's a beautiful gal and a good judge. She was a presiding judge
She
for a
still
while.
is. She's the chief judge for the 2nd Judicial District now. And unfortunately, your 4th name is no longer a judge because he just retired.
Stanley
Whitaker.
Stan Whitaker. So I was privileged to have four judges work with me in my law firm. And of my law clerks, Neil spent a couple of years with his wife in China teaching in a university in China until they got tired of him teaching American constitutional law. And they wouldn't hire him back. At any rate, Niels has been practicing law and retired in Albuquerque. I had other law clerks that I've been very proud of what they've done, and I had quite a group of them. One law clerk settled in Los Angeles, and he and a couple of firms he was working with heard about a fire in New Mexico, the fire that burned part of the Cochiti Pueblo and the Jemez Pueblo and some of the ranches up in that area. And they wanted to get some clients, and so they came here, and he referred them to me